Stop Self-Sabotage by Dr. Judy Ho. How many times have you begun a new year with a resolution to change something in your life, only to realize it's fallen by the wayside in no time? You may have found yourself setting the same goal year after year. I'm really doing it this time, you think. Time passes, and instead of keeping up healthy eating habits or saving money you promised yourself you would, you find yourself indulging in junk food several times a week or blowing cash on an impulse buy. Now what? Well, to begin, it's important to look at the whys behind the pesky habits that keep popping up as roadblocks between you and your goals. First, self-sabotage is usually rooted in two key survival skills: attaining rewards and avoiding threats. Both of these drives help keep you alive and cause reactions in your brain that feel good. The trouble is when they get out of balance. But don't worry, no matter the desire that's eluded you so far, you can begin pursuing it right now with Dr. Judy Ho's 6-step method. You'll learn how to think differently, act accordingly, and reach goals successfully. The method brings together Ho's many years of clinical experience and scientific research along with several exercises for each step. We'll get you started by covering all of the steps and at least one exercise for each. Some of the toughest problems require a custom solution, and that's what you're working towards starting right now. Step 1. Tune into your thinking. There are 6 types of troublesome thinking, or triggers, that cause people to self-sabotage. To address them, you need to first identify them. We'll do a quick exercise for that, but first, you'll need to remember these terms and what they mean. Overgeneralizing, catastrophizing means taking one fact and jumping to conclusions, usually bad ones. For example, have you ever thought a friend was upset with you simply because they hadn't returned a text? Shoulds-based thinking means relying too much on your own rules and expectations about how things should go. Like that friend you texted should have gotten back to you by now, regardless of what they may have going on. Black and white thinking allows for only 2 possibilities and no in between. Perhaps a colleague passed you in the hallway without greeting you, so you firmly conclude they are a rude person. Mind readingus, simply thinking you actually know the thoughts or intentions of others. Maybe you didn't get a promotion and you think that's because your boss doesn't care about your efforts. Discounting the positive usually plays out in downplaying what's good about yourself or things you've done. For instance, have you ever turned down a compliment instead of just giving a simple thank you? Personalization refers to any thinking in which you measure yourself against other people. In other words, when was the last time you scrolled social media? Okay, we know that's a lot of causes of self-sabotage, so here's the exercise we promised you. Break up your next 24 waking hours into 4 equally spaced blocks of time and set an alert for each. When the alarm sounds, grab a pen and jot down what's on your mind. After you complete the 4th note, look back at all you wrote. Consider each thought within the context of the 6 types of thinking we just covered. Do any of your thoughts align with them? You can do this exercise over several days to spot triggers and look for repeat offenders to see which ones are affecting you the most. Now you know what's impacting your own life, you're ready to move on to the next step. Step 2. Shutting down triggering thoughts. Let's revisit that example of the unreturned text message. That was the center of a conflict for Alice, whose insecurity about dating and relationships goes all the way back to childhood. When Alice's boyfriend took longer than usual to reply to a text, she jumped to conclusions and peppered him with questions about whether he was seeing other people or wanted to break up. Eventually, he did, after getting tired of these interrogations. That story kept playing out for Alice until she learned how to look at it as a sequence and then do her part to change the outcome. So what's the sequence? Well, events lead to thoughts, which produce feelings, which drive actions. If you can make yourself pause just after something has happened, the event, you can choose to think differently, improve your feelings, and become far less likely to self-sabotage. One way to work with a triggering thought is with a practice called de-emphasizing, which helps in situations where you simply just need a breather. You can calm yourself down, especially until more facts are clear. To do this, shift your focus away from the thing that happened and put it more on being an objective observer. Use statements that begin with, "I am having the thought that," and "I noticed that." before completing the sentence with your initial thought. So let's say you're Alison thinking, my boyfriend is cheating. You can change that to, I am having the thought that my boyfriend is cheating. Then, you can add another layer of separation with, I notice I am having the thought that my boyfriend is cheating. Doing this creates degrees of separation, takes your mind off the unknowns, and brings you back to what you can control, your own thoughts and actions. Step 3. Changing your old ways. Now that you've done some work on how you think, let's look more closely at what you do, or as Ho calls it, learning your ABCs. The A stands for antecedents, or events that happen before you act. The B comes from behaviors, or actions themselves. And finally, the C is for the consequences that follow.